to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick, Mr. Kloss,
Here.
Mr. Murphy,
Here.
Dr. Ranking,
Here.
Mr. Shaw,
Here.
Mrs. Ross, President Wilson.
Here.
We have 7 present.
Thank you. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance
Of the United States of America,
to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to announcements, we'll start with Mr. Mike Murphy and go in order.
Thank you. An update from Peoria Public School Foundation Schoolhouse Open. Don't miss Peoria's best mini golf and pub crawl, the Peoria Schoolhouse Open, which will be held Saturday, February 19th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Peoria's Warehouse District. Gather your teammates for friendly competition, fun, and beverages to support Peoria Public Schools middle school athletic programs through the PPS Foundation. Register your team today at www.ppsfoundation.org/events.
Sip Day, February 9th. Students and families, Wednesday, February 9th is a school improvement day and a half day for students.
Thank you, Chase.
Boundary waivers. The 2022-2023 boundary waiver application window for students in kindergarten through 8th grade closes this coming Saturday, January 29th. If your student currently attends school on a boundary waiver, you do not need to reapply unless the child has reached the highest grade level at that school. For complete details and to find the application, go to www.peoriapublicschools.org. Scroll to Site Shortcuts and click on the boundary waiver application. Thank you.
Thank you. The Yanni Collective will host the first ever Digital Career and College Fair on February 1st, 2021 at George Washington Carver Center from 10 o'clock to 1:15 p.m. This fair will feature seniors and junior students from all 3 Peoria Public High Schools. Also, Quest. Additionally, every student that signs up will receive 1 desktop computer, courtesy of PCs for People. This interactive college fair will showcase not only the usual fine institutions that come to Peoria to recruit our students, but will also have a heavy emphasis on HBCUs and Greek organizations. There will also be a DJ to help create a fun, social vibe to help students break out of their shell and engage with college representatives. Furthermore, what separates this fair from any other in the region are the How to Become breakout sessions. Students will get the chance to sit in on panel discussions from professionals currently working in entertainment, music, entrepreneurship, and government to gain perspective and insight on how they too can chase their dreams in these hard-to-reach industries. This career and college fair is made possible by key donations from F.J.'s Robinson's Contracting and Illinois Central College. The Yanni Collective will continue to accept donations through January 31st, 2022. Donations can be arranged by contacting me at my email, gregory.wilson@psd150.org. And I have another one. The Peoria Public Schools Foundation offers $30,000 in college scholarships each year to graduating seniors. The scholarship application deadline is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. High school seniors should speak to their counselor to learn more about PPS Foundation scholarships and the application process. I'm the Vice President.
Thank you. Manual High School Lady Rams Pink Out for Coleman Foundation. Manual High School Lady Rams will host Champaign Central High School for the 7th annual Pink Out game on Thursday, January 27th to raise funds for the Susan G. Coleman Foundation. The JV game starts at 5:30 and the varsity game starts at 7 p.m. Coach Holly Nelson will honor breast cancer survivors at the ceremony between JV and varsity games. There will also be great raffle prizes, goodies, and t-shirts for sale. To attend the game, you must RSVP by contacting Coach Nelson at holly.nelson@psd150.org.
Thank you. Dr. Reinke?
Yep. Peoria Public Library Media Literacy. The Peoria Public Library and Bradley University Assistant Professor of Communication, Dr. Corey Barker, are presenting two programs on media literacy and habits in the coming weeks. Building Better Media Habits in 2022 will be held Thursday, February 3rd at 6 p.m. at the North Branch Library, 3001 West Grand Parkway. This program for teens and adults will focus on challenges facing the news industry and how you can be better informed news consumers no matter your platform of choice. Dr. Barker will discuss news and social media consumption and answer media-related questions. Students aged 12 and up will enjoy the fast-paced Fact-Fiction Face-Off Friday, February 4th at 4 p.m. at the Lakeview Branch, 1137 West Lake Avenue. This Scholastic Bowl-style game will give students a chance to determine what is fact and what is fiction in both traditional and social media. The champion Truth Finder will take home a $20 gift card. And I have another one. Parent information for prospective D2 students. Informational meetings for parents of students planning to apply for the PPS Diploma Degree D2 program will be held beginning tomorrow through February 1st. The D2 program allows PPS high school students to attend classes at Illinois Central College during their junior and senior years, earning a high school diploma and an Associates of Arts or an Associates of Science degree simultaneously. The meetings will be held Tuesday, January 25th at Manual High School Library at 5 p.m., Tuesday, January 25th at Peoria High School Library at 6:30 p.m., Thursday, January 27th at Richwoods High School Auditorium at 5:30 p.m., and Tuesday, February 1st, here at the PPS Administration Building at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you, Dr. Reinking. Ms. Costick?
5 essential surveys. Parents and teachers, give us your feedback on school culture and leadership, teacher collaboration, instruction, and family engagement by taking the 5 Essential Survey. The annual 5 Essential Survey gives Peoria Public Schools valuable and accurate measures of the 5 essential factors which determine school effectiveness. Let's work together to give Peoria Public School students the best opportunities for their achievement. Find the 5 Essential Survey link on the district website or on your school website. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Costick. Next, we have awards and recognition. Those Who Excel Award winner, Student Support Staff Award from Mick Swanson, Principal of Calvin Coolidge.
Good evening, Dr. Wilson, or President Wilson, Dr. Crott. I appreciate you having us here. Members of the audience, I am very happy to be here to represent our strong family at Calvin Coolidge. And we have an Excel Award from Miss Megan Moody, who represents our staff extraordinarily. She works as our school tutor, sees students at every grade level, helps them through testing scores in their places of need and to succeed and to be successful and to build confidence. And she helps all around. I mean, she's in every classroom with every student, and we couldn't be prouder to have her with us. Ms. Moody, I would like to give you, if I can get this dog here. Thank you very much. And you can have the box too. And you can have the microphone.
Thank you. I don't want to take up too much time because I know where you have a busy night, but I do want to say thank you to my team. A bunch of them come out tonight. They are so amazing and supportive, and they make it easy to show up and do the work every day. So thank you.
All right, next we have district presentation, modified calendar update. Dr. Karat.
Thank you, President Wilson. Was having some challenges with my technology. Good evening, everyone. I am going to speak from the heart regarding our journey that we're on to continuously improve as a district. We want to continue to be progressive, seeking ways to support our students and staff. But first of all, I would like to make a quick announcement about the bail schedule for next year. The goal was always for us to return to our normal schedule. We know we had some challenges with the pandemic, and we have been working very, very hard to get back to that normal schedule. So I would like to really officially announce that we will be heading back to our two-tiered bail schedule, which means the 7:30 to 2:30 and then the 8:30 to 3:30 time. And I'll actually ask the board for some support in order to really make that happen. We're really close, though. We're very, very close. So back to the topic of modified schedule, calendar. Our recent traditional schedule, our current traditional calendar has been implemented for almost a century and today does not match the current changes like the global pandemic and the impacts of trauma. So the board is being asked to approve the modified calendar for the upcoming school year. And we have been on this journey since 2016 when we asked our Peoria County taxpayers for half a cent in the sales tax. In 2014, it was asked, it was not approved. In 2016, we asked them for half a cent sales tax from the residents in Peoria County to assist us in getting all of our buildings air conditioned. And as of August of last year, each and every building in Peoria Public School is now fully air conditioned. That is truly a celebration. So I'll ask Ms. Seipel. Thank you, Ms. Seipel. I see that it's up. And board, you did receive that PowerPoint last Friday, and the week before then. I don't want to really spend too much time going through it. I just pulled out some of the important highlights that would be of interest to you and our listening audience and our friends and staff and supporters who are out with us this evening. So what does that mean? I referenced the modified calendar. What does that entail? It is a 2-week change seeking to make the academic calendar more evenly distributed. So if you take a look at the slide, one of the board members asked, I thought it was a really nice idea to put it side by side so you can literally see what we're talking about. So it is, as I said, it's a 2-week change with a significant impact. So for example, you will see under this new calendar, teachers would start, and we're comparing what we currently have, that's called the traditional, and then the change that we are seeking. And so teachers would start August 1st, students would start August 3rd. Then fall break would go from 3 days to 10 days. With that 10 days, the district would provide a week of school, actually, a week of academic and social emotional enrichment support. So, and then we have winter break. Winter break is pretty much the same, 2 weeks like we just had. That's unchanged. Spring break would go from 5 days to 10 days, and again, that's 2 weeks. So the first week would be intercession, where we would provide academic, social, emotional enrichment, and field trips, and so forth. You can also see that summer would be reduced from 54 days under the traditional schedule to 42 days under the modified calendar, which would help with reducing the well-known summer slide or academic loss that happens during this time, because it's a pretty long time. So, another individuals said, let's put up the anticipated gains. So what would we get from this shift? The biggest anticipated gains would be the opportunity for rejuvenation, thereby increasing staff retention along with significant improved student behavior. We have seen this throughout all of the districts, all of the schools that have implemented this new model, because by the time people get tired, and they're like all stressed out, it's time for a break. And so the big anticipated gains that we are going after would be rest and respite throughout the school year for students and for staff, and not just during the summer, because right now it's just during the summer, and then we come back and it's full-blown, ongoing, go, 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 go. So also anticipated gains, opportunities for additional academic support for, again, our students K through 12. And during that time, it would be small groups, one-on-one help, individualized support, learning labs, a field trip that Friday for them. And we're also anticipating, in addition to the rest and rejuvenation, what we call the wellness, the social emotional break, we're also actually anticipating over time academic gains because of the intersession supports that we would provide for our students and families. And the other districts, they were not going fully after academic gains, although some of them so slight, but they did not do anything with intentionality about that, but we are. So that's why I'm very optimistic that we will see academic gains, because of really in the spring, they would get a week of academic and social emotional and enrichment supports, and also in the fall. So we've conducted interviews with current implementers of such a schedule, and Brownsburg, Rock Island, Valeska, and others. And some of their best gains were lessening the summer slide, mental health, and increased staff attendance, decrease in discipline referrals, and reduced teacher burnout. So what's the plan of attack regarding implementation for the modified calendar? The next step would be the district calendar committee would meet to provide a 2022-2023 calendar recommendation to me, which then I turn over to the board for approval. They always do a very nice job with that calendar. Then communication with the community around the changes, meet with impacted district individuals like the principals, ADs, union, community groups, and so forth. Work with principals to plan their intersessions. At the end of the year, we would do that as well. And then the intersession time would be 8:30 to 3:30. Transportation would be included, and meals would be provided as well. And so at Harrison, for example, we were asked to implement this calendar at Harrison, and a big thank you to Principal Daniels and the staff, the teachers and all of the staff at Harrison. They implemented it. They implemented the intercession. What that looked like, it included during the intercession, they had STEAM activities, STEAM, science activities, technology activities, engineering activities, arts and activities relating to mathematics. They had small groups. They had one-on-one for the kids. They had music. They had arts. They had a nice schedule. If anybody wants to see it, I can provide it. And they also had physical education rotation. They had SEL. They had project-based learning. And they also had a field trip on Friday. And usually Fridays would be a field trip day. So in the future, in terms of what would the intercession look like for the first week of fall and the first week of spring, it could provide a variety of opportunities and a variety for students, including the what I just mentioned at Harrison. But schools can customize it the way they would like to see it. For example, if some teachers are passionate about certain areas, that's an opportunity to do that as well. And then from the very beginning and at every stage of this process, and I talked to you about 2016 because I came back in 2015, and I told you in 2014 the county facility sales tax did not go through. I came back, a couple of board members, we talked to our community, they listened, they believed, and they made that happen for us in terms of getting our buildings ready. In order to do this, the buildings have to be structurally ready. And, again, as I said, about 20 of them were not ready. And our community came out for us and they made that possible. So we have been deliberate from the very beginning. So this goes way back to 2016. From the very beginning, at every stage of this process, we have been deliberate in listening to the feedback we've received. And so here is so this is not a quick decision. We've listened to the school districts that are on this version of modified calendars. We've listened to the 80-plus people involved on the impact calendar committees. So we had the calendar committee, and then we had subcommittees like finance was a subcommittee, athletics was a subcommittee, student achievement was a subcommittee, childcare was a subcommittee, buildings and grounds was a subcommittee, and even a community group that included a lot of individuals like the Y and Neighborhood House, Boys and Girls Club, the Park District, and ICC for the D squared, and a couple of other organizations as well. So we did have a community group. We listened to the committee's recommendation last spring that the balanced calendar, because remember, it originally started with a balanced calendar idea, which was going similar to Valeska Hinton. We're very, very familiar with Valeska Hinton's calendar. My son went to Valeska. Probably a lot of your kids went to Valeska, where they were out 3 weeks, 45 days in, 3 weeks out. And so we listened to the committee's recommendation last spring that the balanced calendar was not right for PPS, but that the modified version would be and should be explored. We listened to many, many people last spring who thought that given the circumstances of the pandemic from March 2020 to April 2021, it was not the right time to implement a calendar change. We listened when it was suggested that a school should pilot this proposed calendar, and we understand, and we did. Remember, Harrison implemented it with great success and enthusiasm, and they do not want to go back. So we understand the fear. I understand the fear of unknown and the fear of change. An observation is that once schools and districts transition to an alternative calendar like we're talking about, they never want to go back, and that includes Rockford, that includes Brownsburg, Indiana, that includes Valeska, that includes Knoxville, and that includes Harrison Center and other districts, Harrison Community Learning Center. So, finally, I will say that we have listened intensely when the principal of that school and its staff members were overwhelmingly enthusiastic about the calendar change, not only at their school, but at the prospect of the entire district adopting it. And so I'm sorry I took a lot of time, but just kind of wanted to share the journey with everyone, and wanted to thank all of the committee members. Again, over 90 folks were involved, and I thought did a very nice job and looked at every possible potential, problem that we heard, and we were able to explore and look into it. So that's the update, and thank you, President Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. Is there any board members that would like to ask questions for Dr. Karat as it relates to the modified calendar update? Mike Murphy.
Thank you, President Wilson. Thank you, Dr. Karat, for explaining the differences between the modified calendar and what was proposed as the previous balanced calendar. I have two areas that I want to ask a couple questions in. And one, I know that the school districts that you had mentioned that have been on this modified schedule, I know that they're not on the exact same schedule as each other, as well as what this modified would bring. I looked into it, somewhere on 3 intersessions. Valeska is on the balanced calendar. Can you confirm that with this move to the modified schedule, that Valeska Hinton and the Knoxville Learning Center will stay on their balanced calendar as they have requested to stay on and not be switched over to this modified?
Yes, and they're all aware of that,
Okay.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And we're able to. It's all about being able to logistically with transportation, and we're able to do that. So it's nice when we're able to provide that choice.
Okay, great.
So Knoxville will remain, and Valeska Hinton will remain as well
Okay.
with the balanced.
With the balanced, yes. Now, I know a lot of people have been asking for data on this. A lot of emails have been going around wanting to know, what the specific academic reason is for this. And I know that we're driving this more from a social, emotional, refreshed aspect of things. My question is, if this does get passed, would we have some sort of quarterly surveys and reports that are finding out, are the teachers and faculty and students feeling more refreshed? Are their academic grades improving? Is attendance increasing? Are we going to be getting updates on that to see how this modified?
Absolutely. And actually, during this journey, especially the last week or so, we have, and I think you've gotten some emails from some of the staff from Valeska and other schools saying that they really appreciate that time for respite, for rest, for rejuvenation. And I am also anticipating sharing that information with the board. I anticipate teacher attendance will improve significantly. Students' discipline will go down significantly, and just the morale will improve significantly as well. And then over time, we can compare the academic gains, which I do anticipate because of the intercession, the focus on intercession for our families, knowing that some will need some supports with childcare, which that would help.
Sure.
And then normally for spring break, they're on their own anyway for a week. For fall break, 3 days. So we're sort of, doing all that we can to, and just really trying to move the district. Remember that traditional calendar has, was what, 1940s or longer. It was really it's an agrarian calendar. People who were involved with agriculture, you would break for school. And a long time ago, my grandparents were, from the Caribbean. They were farmers, and they, then the kids during after school, they would all go, right? They would all go to help out, on the farm. So we're not really doing that anymore. So there's a lot of research that goes way back about the need to really make some adjustments and make some changes and try something to move us forward to be the very best that we can.
Okay.
And we have been implementing this current schedule. We've been around for over 100 years as a district.
Okay, and then thank you very much. And then my last question is, this is in regards to sports, high school athletes, scholastic groups, people in the IB program. A lot of questions have been raised about how that will affect them. I know I reached out earlier, but maybe you could share with everybody, the option of having special arrangements made for specific groups as they come in. So maybe you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Murphy. So we also did have an athletic committee, and I remember when I spoke with Rockford in 2014, they said the biggest pushback they had initially was from the athletic group, and then realized, after learning more, that it all worked out, they could get it done, and they're the happiest. And even the athletic team they're basically saying we're not going back. And I can ask Dr. Wilson to add specifically to some of the findings from that subcommittee, athletics subcommittee, but they would not be negatively impacted at all.
Specifically with the Rockford Athletic Director to talk about what impact it had, and really what they said was that the schedules are the same. Students work around those schedules regardless of when, because even right now, we have practices in the summer now.
For football, before school starts.
So it doesn't really, those schedules are set years in advance, so we work around those. We also talked about if there are specific plans that have been placed for, maybe this schedule might be short-term notice for them. We would work with any families that are struggling to get to school with the beginning of August timeline.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Yep.
That was going right into my next question about the families that already had. Sometimes they have custodial issues where summers they spend, or maybe they already have plans for international travel to see family, or they already have their vacations planned for after summer sports, but yet, it's kind of short notice. So those families will be able to work with the district to get those times.
Custodial agreements came up with the initial schedule last year when we talked about that. So that was something we mentioned.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dr. Crowder, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Can you speak about the plans and partnerships that you have with different organizations in the community to look after some of our students that during this 2-week break they may need somewhere to go during that time?
Yeah, thank you. So as I mentioned a couple of agencies that were involved, but actually I would say it's a nullified change, honestly, because it's 2 weeks, but 1 week we have the kids. We're keeping the kids for 1 week. Does that make sense? So the other week, normally for spring break, the parents are on their own. Normally for fall break, the parents are on their own. So we're literally saying, you send the kids to us, we'll provide transportation, we will feed them like a normal day and do some different things with them. So, that extra 5 days that we're adding 10 days, I said, 5 days in the spring, 5 days, a little more than 5 days, but for the most part. So we would really, that extra time, we would take care of the kids at their buildings, just like we did at Harrison.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Reinking.
Dr. Crott, picking up off of what was just asked, is intersection required for
No,
that
it's
1
not.
week? Just optional?
Yeah, it's optional.
Okay. I have a few more questions that I'm sure, just as other board members have been asking, some of them have come from the public. You had stated that all of the schools are fully air conditioning. It was indicated to me that Charter Oak and Mark Bill's kitchen and lunchrooms are not air conditioned yet. Is that correct? And that they get quite hot.
I've not gotten any complaint. Usually the complaints I get are from parents and kids that it's too hot. So that's a good thing. Mr. Willis, Dave, I know you're here.
So all of the schools are not fully air conditioning, are not fully air conditioned.
Well, classrooms. We're talking about classrooms, so we can try to find little, loopholes here and there. But I'm not playing games. I'm talking about classrooms.
Okay. One of the other things that was stated that you had presented in the packet that I'm sure is up here but wasn't shown tonight is the impact groups. The impact groups, from my understanding, stopped meeting last school year and didn't really have any discussions this year. So what was reported from the impact groups was the kind of legwork, but those 94 people that you had mentioned have not been part of the work and the discussion this year, correct?
So, Dr. Wilson,
Right, so, impact group and those committees met from December last year to do a lot of the legwork to bring the recommendation We left it as the recommendation on the calendar. There was no additional work done last year because the recommendation having a pilot work this year.
But then studying the impact of that pilot was never done with those 90 or 94 people.
That is correct.
Okay.
That was not the intent either.
So that work with the impact groups concluded in April of last year. So the transparency of voices has not been had by the community members this year. The last question I have is, I had requested at the last meeting regarding the data. So, and we got it, but it wasn't shared tonight. From the data that you provided the board, the SEL is not better this year.
It is.
According to this, office referrals for first semester from 2019 and 2020 for just the first semester was 187. For this year, 2021-2022, the office referrals for first semester are 231. So 187 to 231. If we're thinking about numbers, thinking about social emotional, yes, we have the impact of COVID. Yes, we have the impact of trauma, but I think it's interesting that it was not presented in numbers, but rather bullet points, and the data that the whole community has been asking for weren't presented. So there's that. Student attendance also is down, not significantly, it's still in the 90s. And then staff attendance is neither here nor there because of various reasons. But I think what I'm seeing is a lack of transparency because it's saying that there's the potential for social emotional increases, but from the data, it's showing that we're on the trajectory back up. Yes, it's better than 2016, 2017, where there were 779 office referrals, but 2018, 2019, 323, 2019, 2020, 187, which was down, and then we
That
went
was
back
COVID.
up.
We were not in half the time.
This is just first semester, so we were in session that whole semester.
Well, not everybody,
Because
not everyone. Dr. Wood, can you help Dr. Rankin with those numbers for me, please? Thank you, Dr. Rankin. You understand? Stand, please. That's your school and your data.
right, and so I'm comparing 2019 to 2021.
Yep. Coming
Right.
out of
And
COVID.
so what I'm seeing is a trend going down, but I'm afraid of a trend going back up. And what I'm, I guess, saying is we don't have enough data to make the statement of the potential for increased social emotional learning when the trajectory is going back up. Because in 2019, we were in school the entirety from August until December. The pandemic did not hit until March of 2020. These are just office referrals for first semester. So it's comparing August to December of 2019, August to December of 2021.
Yeah, I would invest and listen to the teachers. So you heard the teachers, if it's there in the trenches at Harrison, and we heard very clearly what they said, right? And from every aspect, from a morale aspect, from a mental health aspect, from children coming back after spring, after fall, after summer, ready to learn, like it's like the first day of school, and all of the other perceptions that they've had. We've heard from Valeska Hinton, even if we have to just listen to the individuals who are implementing such a calendar, and Knoxville. So, I mean, we can go back and forth, but the overall audience, the overall idea, right, with COVID, with the stress, I can see it. Myself, I can feel it. It's about frequent breaks. We're in this, and we are committed 24/7. Okay, so it's frequent breaks, rest, respite for staff. So when we come back, we're ready to go, 100%. And it does make a big difference. It does. I would
Thank
not
you.
spend 6 years going through this and providing a weak proposal to the board or to the community. And we noticed the community started this in 2016. They gave us $50 million, right, to make sure that every building would be air conditioned so that we can get to as close to a year-round school as possible. We're not we couldn't increase days if we wanted to, or make them longer. But the best we can do is take that pie and slice it much more evenly. And that's what's being proposed right now. And we're talking about 2 weeks. Kids get back into school earlier in, everybody has their June and their July for breaks, and then we get back early August.
Thank you, Dr. Crott. Is there any other questions for Dr. Crott as it relates to the modified calendar update? We have a comment, Madam Vice President?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work that people have put into this process, putting it together, because coming from where I came from, we have been looking at trying to do year-round school for a long time. I mean, there's some people in the audience that talk about summer school, we need summer school, we need summer school. As a matter of fact, many of our children don't come to school when school starts anyway. I don't know what percentage it is, but if we start school August 16th, most people wait until after the Labor Day before they come back. So, this idea to me answers a lot of concerns that people have had. They talk about being stressed out. They talk about having needing the opportunity for breaks, and I've heard that from teachers over and over. And from union leaders over and over about what the needs of the staff is. But I'm more focused on what the needs of the kids are. And I've always been focused on what the needs of the kids are, because that's why we're here. If we don't have our children, then none of us need to be here. So we're here to serve children and serve the best interests of our children. I believe that we can monitor, or we can pick apart anything, but we can monitor what goes on when we make this happen, and be able to evaluate it and digest it to see what changes need to be made, if changes need to be made. But again, I hear people talk all the time, but I never hear people say what our children need, And so I'm always going to be focused on that. So I will be supporting this because I see it as an opportunity to do something different. Doing the same thing gets the same results. So we're looking forward to doing something different that has a potential outcome for the best thing for our kids.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We are now at the point of presentation.
There's another one.
Ms. Kossi.
Yes, I had a comment. I do understand both sides, of the proposal, and I've given it a great deal of thought. In listening and reading many of the emails, many of the points had to do with childcare, vacations, and summer jobs. When we went into this, I didn't have a clear understanding of the modified balance, how it would look. And so I kind of did some research, just kind of looking and seeing where these different various calendars were used. And I finally understood that the balanced calendar was kind of an alternative way of structuring the school calendar. The modified calendar, which is being proposed, is really an arrangement of the traditional school calendar. And when I look at the spread of the PowerPoint, there's not a huge difference in the number of days for anything. Instead of starting school on the 15th, they're starting on the 3rd. The fall break, it's increased by 7 days. The spring break is an increase of 5 days. The days of work is down by 4, and the summer break there is a decrease of 12 days, which is not really a lot of significant days in my estimation. In the modified school calendar, what I see is that there are opportunities for schools, teachers, and staff to rest and recharge and recuperate. And to me, that's very, very important because I look at the fact that ever since we've been in COVID, we hear time and time and time again how teachers are getting burnt out and with the discipline issues and they're tired and there's not enough time. And it looks to me like if we're going to a different calendar, that the teachers will be able to kind of take a breath, spend a little bit more time on some of the things that they really need to spend or want to spend time on. I realize that the modified calendar can be detrimental to some. Some of those who prefer the long summer break to get away from the stress of school. However, the modified calendar does allow for longer breaks just at designated times. I agree with Mrs. Ross. The thing that I am very, very concerned with is that somewhere along the line, it just seems that the kids are on the back burner. And so I'm going to piggyback on her, and we've got to understand that without these kids, there's no district. Without these kids, that's the reason that we're here. It's not about our vacation. It's not about whether I have a summer job. It's not about all of that. It's about these kids. And we need to keep that first and foremost. The modified schedule, it does allow for our students to have more continuous learning throughout the school year, which could only help our students who are academically at risk. I realize that the modified schedule is not a fix-all, and that regardless of a modified, traditional, or even a year-round, we're still going to have students that struggle due to learning disabilities, lack of interest, personal problems, social, emotional, a number of reasons. A modified calendar does not fix such problems or necessarily cause academic scores to increase. It's designed to balance out the traditional and to allow more time to the teachers and to the students to kind of regroup. Everybody needs a break. I mean, if you look at it from the perspective, parents, if you look at it from the perspective of you in your daily job, every now and then you need to kind of step back. Am I right or wrong? So the same thing is for our teachers. Every now and then they need to be able to step back and take a breath. Let's not forget, it's all about these kids. It's not about me. It's about these kids. And we need to remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cossey. Dr. Reinke?
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I do believe that we are here for the kids. One of the things that I do want to point out is that either a junior or senior, I forget who it was, from Richwood started a change.org petition, and they have over 600 signatures at this point. I think last I checked, like 632, maybe even more. So I do agree that this is for the students, but I also think that the student voice has been absent from this discussion and that students haven't been able to have their voice heard. have their voice heard, and I am here for the students, and I want the students' voice heard, and that petition is part of that deliberation and taking that feedback. And when students who are going to be in college next year, in 2 years, who are going to be young adults and doing their own thing and have a voice and want to be heard and feel like their only option is to do a change.org petition, I feel like that is something that has lacked in the deliberation and the transparency of this work, because it does impact them. You're absolutely right. It impacts the students.
Thank you,
All
Dr.
the
Reinking. Mr. Mike Murphy.
So, yes, I agree. I have gotten a lot of emails from students as well as faculty, 87 emails, voice messages, and comments that I've replied to in the last 96 hours. If you've sent me a message, I've tried to reply. If it happened after 2 o'clock today, I was busy picking up my own kids from school, getting them home, getting them fed, getting their homework done, and then getting here to this meeting. So I apologize if I didn't get back to you. One of the biggest things that I had to field from these emails was the misconception that this was a balanced calendar. A lot of these people who have sent me emails immediately started with, I do not want a balanced calendar. Do not make me go to school year round. Do not, all based on a balanced calendar schedule. So the first part of what I tried to do during that process was to inform them that this was for a modified schedule and not a balanced calendar schedule for year-round schooling. So that was one of the first things that I realized, and I think a lot of people may have signed that petition also not understanding exactly what was here. That's why being transparent.
Well, you're not a student, so.
And again, I don't think that not everybody had a clear understanding of what was being proposed today. Of a lot of the emails that I received also, teachers that live outside of this district who teach in District 150 but have students that live or students that attend other districts, I pulled the calendars from 11 schools in the area surrounding Peoria. Peoria schools only match up. They don't have a fall break like we do. So the spring break comparison was only compared to and the same as 2 schools currently, and that's East Peoria and Washington. All of the other schools currently do not follow the same calendar we have for spring break. Therefore, the calendars wouldn't have already matched up to begin with. I reached out to all of those 11 schools to confirm that as well. So that's something to consider as well whenever you're saying, well, what about for the teachers that work in this district but have students in another district? They were already planning on not having the same spring break times as well. So I did just want to share that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mike Murphy. Moving along, we are now at the point of presentation by audience. Presentations by audience are limited to 5 minutes, and we ask that you keep them constructive. Our first presentation will be from Sherry Cannon. Just run them down.
Good evening, Mr. President Wilson and board members and Dr. Crott and members of the community. I'm here this evening to talk about the Elite Youth Outreach Program. And the reason why I'm talking tonight specifically is because you're talking about SEL. And I think that's what we do very well with Elite. But before I talk more about that, I need to talk a little bit about Carl. I watched from a distance the work Carl was doing with the young people over the years. It was significant when he and his wife decided to relocate back to the city he grew up in after retiring from the military. They could have chosen to live anywhere in the country, which they did for almost 20 years in the Army, but decided this is where they wanted to raise their daughters. When Carl and Melinda made the decision to move back home, I don't think he knew that he was going to be on the journey he's on now. But once he realized the need, he has not looked back. The precursor to the Elite Youth Outreach Program was a program called Choices. The first annual Choices Award ceremony was hosted in the center court of Northwoods Mall in 1997. It celebrated graduating 8th grade students from throughout central Illinois. Those students were recognized by teachers from their respective schools for overcoming adverse situations. They were not honor roll students, but students credited with giving an A effort. The term Fresh Start was imparted on them as they embarked upon their freshman year. And the very first teacher of the year that was celebrated at that award ceremony was Ms. Laurice Joseph, a great teacher and a leader who was also honored at that ceremony, but we lost last week, an amazing woman. I was there from the beginning of the original Elite High School program. And every other program that has evolved from that first program came because of a need in the community. Carl was instrumental in the creation of the local community prayer vigils, the Day of Hope that was held at Riverplex for Peoria Public School students, the Don't Start Anti-Gang Initiative, the Pulses of Hope drumline, who actually went to Germany to represent our city, the Elite Holiday Community Choir Tour, the Elite K-8 concept, the Junior Elite concept, the School Within a School concept, the Elite Adult Reentry concept, the Elite Street Fathers Summer School, and the elite version of the Winning Summer School program, and finally, the Game Changers. And please understand that only 2 of these initiatives were funded by Peoria Public Schools, which is Elite K-8 and the 2021 Winning program. And we spent many years raising money to provide the resources to fund these programs until a couple of years ago, Representative Jahan Gordon Booth called Carl. And she said that she'd been watching him and the work he was doing, and she provided some much-needed dollars into our programs for the last 2 years. Our goal has always been to give young people a healthy occupation of time and an excuse to stay off the streets, and we believe we've done that well. But more than just keeping them off the street, we've been encouraging them. We've been providing social emotional learning, and we know even right now what we do when we program that it's just not about the books. We've taken them fishing. Some of them never been fishing in their lives. We've taken them on field trips. They've met people that they may have never met before. And even when we do our graduation, we make this just a celebration time for the young people. So we understand what Dr. Karat is talking about, what many of you on the board is talking about, the need to reset. And we've done resets for some of your students. So we're here tonight to say that we support social emotional learning. We support this modified schedule. And we are grateful for all of you that are taking out your time to run and represent our community. But finally, I want to say, there's been thousands of kids that have come through the elite program. And when Carl yells out, "What's your name?" they all respond, "Elite, sir." Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presentation will be from Carl Cannon.
Thank you, President Wilson, members of the board, Dr. Karat and your team. This one's hard and it's different. Sherry just shared some of the history with Elite. But the reason I'm at this podium tonight is different from any time ever in my history. I want to give you my own definition of that elite history. It actually started in the summer of 1995 in a federal prison yard in Pekin, Illinois. That's where I observed the dominant profile of the inmate population, that it was almost identical to every urban city in the country, including my hometown of Peoria. In that prison yard, I finally understood what the contributing factors that make up a prison population. We all know them: poverty, geography, family dysfunction, real dilemmas. But it doesn't have to be the reason for ending up behind walls. That's what we tell kids. So why? Because the inmates in that prison yard taught me that a majority wouldn't wish their fate on their worst enemy. I also learned that most of those in that yard would beg their kids not to do what they did and to listen to their teachers. They were right. Teachers are the vaccine for poverty, geography, and dysfunction. Teachers, I believe, save lives. Everything I've done in the past 26 years has been predicated on that fact. Teachers are the answer. Understanding that message, I hit the streets, or should I say the school buildings. I and others in this room started presenting the choices concept here in Peoria and later around the country. The theme back then behind our message is the same one we tout today, and that's teachers are the answer, not the problem. Students need to learn, we teach, sometimes, to be quiet and listen, or more frankly said, to shut up and listen. In 2005, after our community saw an uptick in youth criminal activity and bullets flew down the hallway at Woodruff High School, a group of us were inspired to create the Elite Youth Program. Ladies and gentlemen, that was 17 years ago. Mind you, after 26 years of supporting my community and our school district, before this night, I have never been before this body with a complaint. My complaint is not with you, the board, or your administration, Dr. Crott and her team. My complaint is directed at Mr. Jeff Atkins Dutro and a couple of others. Mr. Dutro was recently quoted in a WCBU interview stating that the district has no social emotional learning. Well, that's not true. We, stand up, Elite. We are SEL. So our partners with are the Children's Home, Family Corps, and the amazing resources at the One Stop Wraparound Center. It's obvious to me that he doesn't understand SEO and doesn't appreciate how it has and does benefit our families. Maybe he doesn't get it because of the uniqueness of the Peoria Public School model. I liken it to a hospital for poverty, geography, family dysfunction, and now a pandemic. Understand, that location is SEL on steroids. So why the complaint? Recently, the Regional Office of Education made a compliance visit to the Elite Game Changer program. I asked for permission for a couple more minutes, Mr.
Any
President.
objection? Go ahead.
Thank you. Recently, the Regional Office of Education made a compliance visit to the Elite Game Changer program. You guys can have a seat, please. The visit was based on false allegations made by the leadership only of the Peoria Federation of Teachers. There was absolutely no merit to the allegations. The community should also know that before the visit, we had never been confronted with any of these concerns. Had we known, one, we would have fixed it. Two, we would have asked them for help. If we couldn't fix it, teach us how to fix it. They never gave us a chance to even ask for help. It appears to me that they only wanted to play little kitty games. Some used to call it sticks and stones. I don't play that. Some people, usually bad politicians, will just throw anything against the wall to see if it sticks. If you fall into that category tonight, please consider this a fair warning that no longer will we, the people that stood just a minute ago, stand and not respond to false claims. The veteran educators that represented the Regional Office of Education who conducted the compliance visit related to myself, district representatives, and not only was there no merit to the allegations, but they believe that the game changer concept should be replicated. Our role, understand please, has always been to help with behavior. so real American heroes, and I'm talking about teachers, can teach. We realize what our role is, and by no means are we trying to be teachers. We're here to support our teachers. However, we know, understand, be on notice. We know the value of the role we play. We're not going away. We make sure our students, your students, understand that their today does not have to dictate their tomorrow. Because we develop healthy relationships with them and often with their parents or guardians, we tell them what they need to hear and not what they want to hear. This is SEL at its finest. In closing, thank you for allowing me to vent. Because of your support, you can all believe that there's one less and not one more headed to that prison yard. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker would be Pastor Marvin Hightower.
Good evening. I'm Pastor Marvin Hightower, and I'm the president of the NAACP Peoria branch. I'm speaking on behalf of our Education Committee, which is chaired by past school board member Ernestine Jackson. Part of the mission of the Education Committee is to study local education conditions affecting minority groups. Let me start out by saying we support the board and its one employee fully, Dr. Karat. We support the administration and our teachers who are, as Carl said, real heroes. We support the union, but most of all, we support the students who eventually become part of our community. Based on what we have read, heard, and seen on various news outlets and social media, we are very concerned with the relationship between union leadership and the administration. As you are aware, we are living in perilous times that demand all our focused attention, which makes working together paramount. We believe union leadership is creating many unnecessary disruptions and further perpetuating a bad image for the district by insinuating there are no alternative programming options for those who need it, or SEL. From what we understand, there are several examples, which include the Wraparound Center, there's food service, social emotional learning, and also the Game Changer program. This approach and tone contribute to a toxic environment in the district where most of the students are Black. We must change with the times, and based on what we have observed, there needs to be a change in union leadership. Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful tool which you can use to change the world. But when communication is always confrontational without offering any solution, it creates more problems which will ultimately affect us all. It's time for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joe Corey.
Good evening, everybody, the board, Dr. Karat, our fellow community members. I'm a retired physician, but my new job in the last 5 years has been as an elite volunteer. And a buddy of mine and I, named Muhammad, and I wrote a song and made a music video called Don't Start, based on Carl's inspiration, a message of prevention. And we've been into multiple schools to give our message, to talk to the kids. Been in multiple schools where Carl and his team have been there, and we have observed them. And I just continue to be in awe of all of them. They're, the staff guys, Bill, Howard, Carl, and all the volunteers, all the other staff, and they're doing a great job. I just wanted to speak to that. We have been in front of probably 3,000 young people over the last 3 years in our schools. Our latest one was down at the Dream Center at the Game Changer program. And I'm just very impressed, and I've been down to when they were down at the Tremont Park Pavilion, when they had the students there. For those who don't know, the program there, they take the highest risk students from out of class, and have them in class there. And they have done an amazing job. We showed our video and spoke to that class just last week. And I can tell you, you could hear a pin drop. All those students were just riveted on our presentation, mainly my buddy War. He does a great job talking to the students. He's got the street cred. He's been there. And these students, they answered questions. We asked them questions. They answered questions, and they gave us good answers. And you can tell that they have been influenced by that program. Melvin, where's Melvin? Melvin here, and his team. Some of the game changers are here, and I'm just totally impressed by them. And I would like to suggest maybe all the board members, if you get a chance, stop into one of those classrooms, just observe and see what a difference Carl's program is making. And he's getting those students, the highest risk students, back into their schools, and they're succeeding. So that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker will be Charlie Thomas.
I didn't realize this was an elite meeting here tonight about all this. I had no idea. I just come here to talk about things I always talk about, and I'll start with elite. I'm not in favor of elite, never have been. Well, let me tell you why. The teachers have been doing what elite does forever. We've been doing that as teachers. We went to school to become a teacher, to teach kids. Now, are there great people in elite? You better believe there are. There's some great people I've met over the years. But if you really want to get down and dirty, be in that classroom with 30 kids, teach them math or history. And this game changer thing is relatively new. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about it. You don't know. Hey, I'm talking now, right? All right.
Yeah. You've been talking before tonight.
And I'm going to talk more.
Why don't you tell your wife to start sending the work back with you?
Oh, that look.
That's your job. Why don't you do that?
Hey, why don't you get rid of
That's
this?
your job.
What kind of stuff is that?
Get the order. Go ahead, sir.
Seriously? Wow, that is just embarrassment. I've been part of this district 35 years. Isn't that something? Unbelievable, was right. Wow. See, that might just show you something there. I'll just say that. My point is, like I said from the very beginning, is I'm not saying that people are all bad that are trying to do elite or game. That is not my point. And he's going to bring up my wife, who he came and said was a racist in her classroom.
No, I didn't say that. I repeated what parents said to her.
That's a joke.
You need to take order in this meeting.
Please continue.
Do I get my 5 minutes over? I mean, he just interrupted half of it.
Please continue.
I will. This is your meeting, sir.
Thank you.
I will once again try to start and finish. The point I'm trying to make is A lot of these young men and women that are part of Elite and Game Changers are trying to do the right thing. The reason some teachers have had problems with some of them, including me, is that we thought they overstepped their bounds with some of the kids, taking them out of class to do certain things. That's all I was trying to say. And that's not even why I came here tonight. But after hearing all this, I just felt he attacked Mr. Atkins Dutro, who he's a friend, but I don't know what's in his head. That's not my issue. My issue is this. If these programs work, which I know some of them do, I've seen positive things. It's not all negative, but social emotional learning has been going on with teachers 100 years ago. We treated kids for everything. We didn't used to even have counselors, or maybe one. Counselor's a hard job. You ever try to be a counselor? Ask Mr. Booth. He knows. Them jobs are hard, man. Being a counselor is you got to listen to every side. But my goodness, I cannot believe that we're that upset because teachers just want the people that are dealing with their kids to know that the teachers are there and has always been there. Elite and Game Changers is new. I don't know how you think they're saving the world. Are they doing good? Yeah, they probably are in a lot of respects. It has nothing to do with what I think. I've seen it. I was at Glen Oak. That was not a good situation there. Unbelievable. I wanted to talk a little bit about the schedule. I don't think the schedule is going to make a whole lot of difference either way. Dr. Karad, I've liked a lot over the years. I respect her. I think she's got great ideas, and I always think that. But I think we got to fix what goes on when the kids are there. Doesn't matter when they're there. If you want to split it 2 weeks here and there, I don't think that's an issue. But what I think you got to do is when they're there, get after them like we used to. Carl made a couple good points. I know Carl hates my guts. That's all right. Come on, man. It's not about that. Carl has lived the life that could really help kids. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But when Jeff Atkins makes comments or whatever, Game Changers, for example, it's brand new. So I'm talking about teachers are trying to figure this out. It's new to them. They don't go on Fridays. Why do they go on Fridays? I've asked for an explanation. No one tells me. Maybe there's a real one. They don't have anything on Friday. They have no dress code. They get catered lunches. Oh my gosh. My favorite movie all time is Lean on Me. Favorite. I love that actor. Unbelievable. What they did is got the bad kids up on the stage and said, you don't want to be here anyway. Get rid of them. Well, you think, well, what if that's my kid? Well, then parents step up. I like to have extra time. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that. I won't take very long, I promise. So, Dr. Karat, really, my respect for you has always been there. You probably know what you're talking about with this. I haven't researched it like you have, so I'm going to defer, obviously. But I think the biggest, more important thing is when the kids are in the building, whenever that is, let's get back to respecting your teachers. Can't have other entities in there trying to make the teachers look bad or say bad things. Now, are all teachers good? No. And just like I would say to Mr. Cannon, not all elite members are good. Some of them got to learn a lot to handle kids. I've seen it firsthand. I don't even know if those same ones are with him. Knowing him, he probably worked on them, got them better. But it has nothing to do with me liking him or his brother. It has nothing to do with it. I'd appreciate his brother just doing his job and staying out of teacher's business, but I'm not there every day. So, in closing, it's been a wild night, hasn't it? I don't know what to think about the schedule. My wife seems to think, I defer to her. She's great. But I do know this. When she is done teaching in Peoria District 150, her and I combined will have 70 plus years working with these great kids in District 150. So don't come at me with street cred and all that. I got it all. I got it all right here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker will be Terry Knapp.
I'll be right back.
Our next speaker will be Terry Knapp. Terry Knapp.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but I know a little bit more about Jeff Atkins Dutro than some of the people that talked about him tonight. Jeff Atkins Dutro went to Manual. Jeff Atkins Dutro loved these kids, and he was sent from Manual to the wherever because a grant when Miss Crott was down at Manual removed him and 2/3 of the teachers from Manual. He did not want to leave Manual. He's an inner city person, just like I'm an inner city person. He raised 4 kids. His wife happens to be categorized as black. His oldest daughter is categorized as black. Is working on a doctorate degree at the University of Washington in St. Louis, making about 50 grand a year going to school for free. She is one of the top students ever, and she would resent how he was disattacked. If Carl and you had wanted to talk to him, this should have been carried on somewhere else. He's the president of the teachers union. He represents the teachers, not himself. I know because I represented the teachers, and that's garbage the way he was treated tonight. And I stand for this man. He voted for the first $500 20 years ago that we gave Carl Cannon in Elite to go out to the mall and give kids $500, right? Remember that? I was one of the first people. He was on board and voted for that. Yeah, don't give him a bunch of crap because he leads the teachers. He does, what he's hopefully paid to do. That having been said, I want to mention some things. The people here tonight, I get back from Florida last Saturday. And I'm going to have to ask for a couple minutes extra too because I wasn't even going to talk about that. But I get back from Florida on Saturday. I go to games at Morton, 5 games, 10 teams. I go to Metamora to the tournament, 4 teams. I went 3 days to Metamora. You know, you ought to be getting over there and asking Miss Ross what she thinks about the fact that only 2 people from the high schools can go to a basketball game. I can't even go to a basketball game. Somebody made a rule, and I asked who made the policy. You know what the school board, the school district out here told me on last week? They said, oh, we're going to work on that on Friday. No, these people think you're nuts in Peoria. When I go watch these basketball games, ICC had a full house. The high schools had a full house. Our kids are leaving, going to East Peoria, Limestone, all over the place. Basketball players of high quality. They're not going to put up with having to beg so they can get their friends and parents to come to the games. That's garbage. Garbage in and garbage out. Who decided that? I thought board members made policy. I was told the board members didn't make the policy. It's the COVID people, like I guess these ladies down here, these major administrators that think the kids, maybe they want to be in Bloomington and Germantown so they don't have to come to the games. I don't get it. These kids have been screwed for 2 years now. And then on top of it, the 10 years that Lathan was here, the 8 years Lathan was here, was miserable. Dr. Crott is such a fresh breath there in this community, I can't believe it. And I've told you numerous times. But the lady that preceded her, you paid for 10 people to come in here, $5,000 each of her picking from North Carolina. You know how many are in town? None. They're gone. We paid for them to come here, and she took the school district down the tubes, and now we're sitting here jumping the guy who bleeds orange and black, who bleeds Peoria, just like I believe blue and gold. He's blue and gold through and through. You won't find 3 better guys than us to support these kids. And you can go all you want to. I really don't care because I know what goes on in this community, and I know what's gone on for the last 75 years in this community. That having been said, These masks, I told you a year and a half ago, these are garbage. Those wouldn't stop a bacteria to pass through to my face or back the other way. And you can ask any doctor you have if I'm not correct. It's going on all over the country now. There's a rebellion against these masks across the world. They said these aren't worth.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I'm gonna ask if you can. You made your point.
done.
If you can.
I'm done. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Make me sick.
Yes, to put on a. Mr. Knapp, can you just put the mask on for me? Thank you.
Demonstrating something.
Thank you.
You'd like to kick me out, or you like to do.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Our next speaker will be Miss Caroline Harris.
Good evening, board. Tonight I'm here to speak on the Washington Middle School, Washington, D.C. trip and its cancellation or postponed. Originally, on May 31st, 7th and 8th graders who were signed up to go on the Washington, D.C. and New York trip were to leave for it. Due to the COVID days that were added on to our school year recently, our trip coordinator, Mr. C, would have to take unpaid time off to keep the original dates. Therefore, I'm advocating for this trip to be excused for the students and Mr. C. Ever since I was in 4th grade, when my mom and my sister went on the Washington, D.C./Gettysburg trip, I have wanted to go on this trip. The Washington, D.C. and Gettysburg trip is an educational trip that few kids in our district get the opportunity to go on. Few kids in general get this opportunity. The Washington, D.C. trip is talked amongst the students till they can go. The bigs tell their littles about the opportunity to go to Washington. The trip is way more educational than these kids will learn in the last week of school. As a student in the classroom, the last 4 days of school are to relax, talk about summer plans, and get excited about Carnival. These grades will have already been due, so is the learning really happening in our classrooms? Our 8th graders do not even need to come to the last 4 days of school when they have been promoted. There are more 8th graders than 7th graders going on this trip, meaning most kids would not even be at school. Why are the 2 days we spend watching movies more important than the Holocaust Museum, the Twin Towers Memorial, or the Vietnam Veterans Memorial? Those are just a few of the important monuments and memorials we see on the trip, so why can't these 4 days be excused? Students have been excused for less educational type experiences in the past. For example, you are approving students to be excused 4 days, February 3rd through the 6th. If they and their 2 chaperones can be excused, why can't we? I have never, and I mean never, in my 9 years of school before this semester, have been able to say that I've not wanted to go to school. For a day, I've wanted to miss school because of NWA or a friend was not going to be there, but I've never felt like school was horrible. Until now. School is no longer a place I enjoy. There was always that one thing that kept me loving school, but not anymore. COVID has affected not only our personal lives, but our school lives too. Last year, I was supposed to go on the original trip to Washington, D.C. and New York City. That was the first time our trip was pushed back. COVID has affected the last 3 years of school greatly, and the students are losing their want to go to school increasingly. There are 60 or so students registered to go on the trip, and we will lose about 10 students. Some families will not even be able to get their money back since they did not purchase the insurance. I'm advocating for the Board of Education and Dr. Karat to help keep the Washington trip as planned and leave May 31st. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Our next presentation will be from Mr. Dan Walther. Nice to see you, sir.
My name is Dan Walther, reside at 1226 East Maywood. It's a tough act to follow after that young lady from Washington. Which proves that this district does a very good job educating our people. That was a passion plea, and I support what she's saying. There's something, and I do wish that the administration would relook at her request for that, because I do think it makes a difference. I originally came here to speak about the change in the modified district thing that we've had with that, and all of a sudden, there's a huge elite thing that's going on. And I want to say 2 things, and I don't want to sound wishy-washy, but Carl and I have gotten along for a long time, and I support what Elite has done and what they have tried to do. I'm not familiar with what the issue is between he and Jeff Atkins-Dutros, because I have enormous respect for Jeff too, because I think what the union has tried to do is do in the best interest for the kids. I've heard every board member up here, it says what we're here for is for the kids. The question I have about the change, and we'll go back to the original one, about what we're doing on this modified thing, I don't see the data, and I was a board member here for 5 years, being overwhelming to make this kind of change. What I do see is that the superintendent has enough board members that are going to support her to do this. So this thing is going to go through. We've had a lot of parents that have some questions, and I think legitimate questions. A couple of people, Hetty Elliott and a couple of other people who have raised some very legitimate questions about this, I agree with. I go back to people who are in the classroom to do this. What is best for the kids? I'm not sure this change is going to be. There will be a modified change in the schedule, and we'll go through this. But I don't see us making up, I think the word was, Dr. Karat, the slide time or the time that people lose for that. I think we can live with that. The problem is, I think in the Hippocratic Oath, they ask us, please, first thing is do no harm. And so my question is what you're doing, if you weigh it, is there going to be more harm than good for what you do? And my problem is, I think you're going to have more harm than good. I don't see this overwhelmingly making a large difference in what we're going to do. I'm concerned about that because there's another issue that's kind of the elephant in the room. We automatically pass our kids on who have gone through COVID, who have had really difficult times, and kids who are third graders are functioning at a first grade level. We've got kids that are sixth graders that are functioning at a fourth grade level. We're not helping them by moving this on. We're putting them in a position and we're graduating kids who are not functioning. That's not what this district is about. So all of you that are up there say, we want to do this for the kids. When that kid gets out of here and has to go to Illinois Central College or go to Illinois State, they're not ready. We haven't made them ready. Passing them on automatically doesn't do that. And I think we need to review that whole process of what we're doing right now. And I know there'll be a few people here down in the first row, this retention doesn't work. But I'm saying absolutely automatically moving people on without them being prepared for the next grade doesn't work either. I'm sorry I'm a little grubby. I was out collecting petitions because I am running for another district board here, District 2. But the issue is, I think we need to do something that's going to be good for all the kids in this district. And I think it's a problem that we have. So I appreciate you listening to me. It's good to be back here. Rather be up there, but I understand, and thank you for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walther. Our next speaker will be Mr. Anthony Joseph.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Joseph. I'm a junior at Richwoods High School, and I'm a member of both the IB program and the Knights Marine Corps Junior ROTC. I'm here on behalf of 633 as of 7:45 p.m. students, parents, and faculty of District 150 to present a petition in opposition of your modified calendar proposal that you'll be voting on tonight. Terms of the petition were listed on the change.org site, where the petition was posted by Lindsay Wales, also an IB junior, just 1 day ago. The live results of the petition can be found under the title Stop the Modified School Plan in District 150, Peoria, Illinois, on change.org. Those who signed all agreed to the following: that there is simply not enough evidence to suggest that students benefit from schooling with a shorter summer break. It is neither socially nor academically beneficial because most American schools do not operate on that schedule. That student athletes and coaches during their extended breaks in the fall, spring, and summer will not get time off during the breaks. Also, if there's time allocated off during this time, some sports, according to IHSA standards, will not play enough games to qualify to play in regional, sectional, and state tournaments. Additionally, other schools will not be on the same schedules. This negativity impacts teachers with children, siblings, and extended family in other school districts because they cannot spend time with them during breaks. Also, the majority of parents work full-time. In summer, there are camps allocated for kids to have a place to be taken care of and have fun. Parents will have time to take extra measures for childcare with longer breaks in the school year than in the summer because there are not programs running at this time. Additionally, less students are going to want to enroll in Richwoods with a shorter summer. The kids are with more economic stability are going to move to other schools. The prices for homes in your district will go down, creating more financial ruin for some people in your school area. With long summer breaks, children can participate in non-school activities and engage in unstructured play. Planning vacations and events would be difficult for families with one child in a modified school plan and another in a traditional school. When schools are on different timetables, it would be more difficult to schedule school athletics, and older students often look forward to summer jobs. Some students need all the time they can in the summer to work to pay for college. After stating the terms, I would also like to offer some comments that some students have posted on the change.org site. From Jewel Moore, an IB junior at Richwoods, quote, internships and using summer productivity are more effective ways to build a resume than dedicating your time solely to academics. This will not help set students apart in the college applicant pool, and it is detrimental in various other ways as stated above in the petition, end quote. From Katie Wales, an IB senior and Richwood Student Council president, quote, don't forget about the AP and IB testing dates won't change, so students will be less encouraged to take higher level classes, end quote. So for those of you who do not know, AP and IB have standardized tests that are taken worldwide, and because of that, they are required to be taken at the same time. From Yona Oliver, a sophomore at Richwoods, quote, students who travel or work during the summer will have to cut this short or not be able to do so at all. Furthermore, schools are likely to lose students if they change summer break. Having longer breaks during the year, although this sounds nice, I think everyone is quite satisfied with the breaks we already have. Additionally, I find that over spring break, I forget much of what I have learned, and getting back into the routine of going to the school is difficult. Doing this many more times would not be educationally beneficial. I strongly agree with this plan, end quote. Just to make the board aware, I'm sure you already are, that in addition to this petition, there's been a Facebook page with 752 members of parents, faculty, and students like myself that was created close to a year ago, with many in opposition to this change as well. It can be found on Facebook under the name District 150 Proposed School Calendar Discussion. I would like to finish my speech with a question. Even if this was supported by everyone and was the best option, why are we making such a large change like this when we are still recovering from the educational, emotional, and economic turmoil that has been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic? Why would we not wait to let students in the world recover before even considering this change? Thank you to the board and for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Our next speaker this evening will be Miss Elizabeth Thompson.
Hello, everyone. I have children at Richwoods and Rolling Acres. I attended all of the town hall meetings surrounding the proposed balanced calendar schedule last year. At that time, there was many unaddressed concerns and unanswered questions that were supposed to be addressed before the issue would be ever brought up again to vote. That has not occurred. A survey has not been released to the parents and teachers for their input, even though this has been a request that occurred last year and again this year a multitude of times. This request has been downright ignored. Last year, a group of concerned parents put out a survey, and in less than 24 hours had responses that indicated a majority for the traditional calendar. If a group of parents can create a survey and administer it, I'm unsure why the district has been unable to complete this task and successfully administer the survey to find out teacher buy-in and parent buy-in and student buy-in to the modified calendar throughout the district. Before Harrison implemented it, they ensured that they would have enough teachers who would buy into the modified calendar. They made sure they would have enough teachers to actually staff their school. This needs to occur before this issue is voted on. This affects our entire district. to ensure that we would even have enough teachers who would be willing to stay at a District 150 with a modified calendar. Buy-in to modified calendar is something that is necessary for this to be effective in our district. As I mentioned before, I attended every single town hall meeting last year, and Superintendent Corrett did not attend one of them to answer any of our questions. If it is your charge, I would think that you would find value in it being present at this meeting to answer parent questions. However, Dr. Wilson and Thomas Pratt attended the town hall meetings and were unable to answer most or all of our questions. To date, none of these questions have been answered, even though we were promised to be delivered a response. Concerns that parents have brought up, the benefit of the modified balance calendar, or modified calendar. To date, the only two schools that were interviewed were Rock Island and a school in Brownsburg, Indiana, as well as Valeska Hinton, which is a different age group, and the same concerns and issues do not apply to the elementary, middle, and high school students. When Harrison was asked what the benefits of the modified calendar this year so far, they were listed as a possibility of extra income for teachers. This is contradictory to the charge of teachers being rested, relaxed, and rejuvenated, as well as the intercessions for our students to do the same. If they're working at different districts, this is no benefit to the teachers or the students. Harrison presented that the attendance rates, office referrals, students' motivation to learn, and teacher absences were less. This was all presented as subjective data, which is easily influenced and biased. As parents, teachers, and a community, I think we deserve to actually have data that displays that the modified calendar is the best option, not a subjective observation. Otherwise, this is a disservice to everyone involved. When Harrison was presented, it referred that it had the best to have the entire district on the same schedule, because this caused some students to not start with the rest on modified schedule. What was the exact numbers of the Harrison families? Were these families interviewed to find out what the reasoning was for the delayed start? Is it possible that even the entire district was on modified, they would choose to wait till after the traditional start date or even Labor Day? Childcare issues. Again, the district has yet to present a list of what community providers have stated they would adjust their schedules to provide childcare for the break in the spring and the fall. Custody agreements. That would cost our families additional money to revise. What community resources have been contacted to create a partnership to offer our families? I'm a social worker. I can tell you different agencies, but yet you haven't provided any. Missing out on extracurricular activities that are not affiliated with school, for example, camps, clubs, sports, music, and art camps. When Harrison presented, they offered no solution for this issue. To date, the district has offered no solution. Summer jobs, the buses, I brought up the buses last year. Are they air conditioned? The large percentages of our students that walk to and from school. My kid goes to Richwoods. There's kids walking from ICC. There's kids walking all the way up to Untamed Chef home. So how are they going to walk in extreme heat? The three schools that were interviewed by the impact committee that was presented last year was Rock Island, Brownsburg, Indiana. They were on modified schedules. In the last school board meeting, Dr. Kratt referenced that had been in charge previously of a district changing into a modified calendar. However, the district name, can I have a little bit more time?
Any opposed? Nope.
However, the district name was not mentioned. My question is this: was she referring to one of the two districts in Rock Island or Brownsburg, Indiana? If not, is the district she's referring to still operating on a modified calendar, and is it successful? Why was the district not interviewed or included in the survey? If it was one of those districts, it should have been mentioned that she had been responsible for switching them to a modified calendar. I will again say this decision is being rushed to be made. The email that came out Friday states that after years of research consideration, I will pause here and interject that that's not true, because the research that has been provided is inadequate and based off the schools that have been previously mentioned. The email also stated that it is delivering on the 2016 county school facility tax vote. The balance, basically this, it's contradictory. The actual charge is either the COVID learning loss or the tax, or is it both? The Balanced Calendar Committee will revisit the feasibility of providing a balanced calendar schedule starting with the 2022-23 school year to address COVID-19 learning loss and accelerate learning. Be transparent. My question is, with reason, why is this being pushed so hard? And the addition that the email was sent Friday caused many parents and teachers to feel as if a decision has already been made. I spoke to countless parents and teachers, and most have responded with, what is the point? The decision's already been made. This is misinformation and a disservice to District 150 Sandwood. I believe that District 150 parents and teachers should have a right to express their opinion before a decision is forced upon them. I believe that there should be actual data, and it's presented in a written form and to all of our families. Again, I ask, why are you rushing the decision? Let me remind everyone that the superintendent works for the Board of Education and not vice versa.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Up next, we have Ms. Lynn Fingerhut.
Good evening. Thanks for having us here. I am here to oppose the modified calendar, but I also know that it sounds like the decision's already made. So I'm not going to belabor all the points that we've already, I think a lot of great people have made. Mr. Joseph had a great point down here, and I agree the points are precise. We don't have the data for this change. We don't have enough information. The community members don't have enough information, but what I wanted to now bring up is how disheartening it is tonight, the implication that parents, teachers, the community, and families are confused, and that we don't actually understand the proposal. So people may have signed that petition by mistake because they didn't fully understand it. I've attended every single school board meeting, either in person or online, attended the town hall meetings online. We've had so much upheaval in the last 2 years with COVID. I think the district has made some really, really good decisions, evidence-based decisions on bringing students back, masking, all that, and I completely appreciate it. But we understand what's going on with the calendar. We get it, and we're not confused. We do think that there just hasn't been enough community input about this situation. We also voted on a tax increase for air conditioning because we want our students supported, we want our teachers supported, we want them to have comfortable and safe and healthy learning environments. We didn't vote at that time to go to school for most of the summer. We voted for air conditioning, and I'm so happy that it's there. And I think that that is a fundamental misunderstanding, that we didn't vote for going to school all summer long. We've also been told this isn't a big deal. It's barely a change at all. It's not different, really. It's just a couple days here and there. And yet, at the same time, it's a significant change. It's huge. We need this. We have to have this. The kids have to have this. And if we don't support this, we're neglecting our kids. We're not thinking of the kids. We don't care about the kids. I think that's exactly the message that we're getting tonight, and it's really frustrating to hear that because I do think we're all thinking of our students. And when we're thinking of our students, we're thinking of their teachers, their comfort, their safety, their burnout levels. Do they want this? We don't know. We don't have a survey since a year and a half ago that when the survey was taken at that time, the bulk of the responses were not sure. At least a third of the responses were not sure. That meant the teachers didn't have enough information at that point. Do we have another survey? What do the teachers want? I want them to not be burnt out. If the extra 2 weeks in the fall and extra 2 weeks in the spring are what they need to keep going, and that's beneficial, can we hear that? Can we hear that from them? I support the teachers. I support the district. I don't support the modified calendar. I don't think we have enough information. I think this has been a very disruptive couple of years, and I think we need to, obviously there are bigger problems too that we need to fully address before we roll this out. There's no need for it to be happening 7 months from now. We have lots more time to look into this, to lay the groundwork. At this moment, there are community partners that still don't know about this, or if they do, they haven't adjusted because the Peoria Park District playbook has summer camps open that include weeks that District 150 students will be in school this summer, at least 2 weeks, sometimes 3. So are they still going to have these camps? Are they going to cancel them? Or are people who have already registered for these camps going to go ahead and keep their kids in the camps because that's what they were anticipating instead of sending them to school? the Park District was supposed to be one of the community partners a year ago that was going to be working with us on activities and, the whole plan. Park District employees overlap with 150 employees. Students work for the Park District in the summer. There's a lot of things that are just kind of left unknown. So I'm disappointed to hear that maybe the consensus is that we're just confused. We're not really taking this, for what it's worth, and we're just confused about the whole messaging. So I do oppose the modified calendar, and I think I fully understand it. I still oppose it, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fingerhut. Next, our next speaker this evening will be Miss Melissa Devaney. Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Devaney. I am a District 150 graduate and District 150 taxpayer. I'll be really short. I don't have anything prepared. Listening to all the comments and everything that's transpired over the last couple years, just wanted to give my input in the thought of how much these students have really been through, and the parents too. So you're hearing a lot of people, give testimony about the abrupt changes due to COVID. And of course, none of us could expect that was going to happen, so we all had to respond as we could. But growing up in District 150 used to be was an ironclad district in which we never heard about cancellations. We were the rare school canceling. And in the last couple years, it's been cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. And you even see it on Facebook. I'll scroll on Facebook for a second and I hear or see posts about how bad the cafeteria lunch is. So I just hope our focus is in the correct area. It seems that there's a lot of energy going towards this modified calendar when there's so many things, obviously, that have not been taken care of and are a lot more crucial to the students themselves and to the parents. And so to push forward for such a big change for the upcoming school year of 2022-23 without a lot of data evident, or even the pilot school to go a whole year, since this is a modified calendar, meaning the whole year, is just very perplexing that we would be in this position already. I'm opposed to it because there is not enough information or enough time to really bring this to the students and parents of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Devaney. Our next speaker this evening will be Mrs. Sarah Martinez.
Good evening, President Wilson, Vice President Ross, Board Members Murphy, Costick, Klaus, Brian King, and Shaw, and of course, Dr. Crott. My name is Sarah Martinez. I am an employee of Peoria Public Schools for 23 years. I teach third grade at Northmore Primary, but more importantly, I am the parent of 4 Peoria Public Schools students. I would like to express my opposition to adopting the modified calendar. Others have expressed many valid reasons for maintaining the current schedule. I would like to focus on athletics. I think we can all agree that we want our high schools to be competitive at the state level. Narrowing or eliminating the possibility for our high schoolers to attend college and university-directed sports camps puts our athletes at a distinct disadvantage as compared to their peers. It is imperative that athletes hone their sports skills over the summer at these camps in order to be competitive at the highest levels. High school practices and game schedules will surely overlap these extra breaks, which would not allow a break or a vacation for families of student athletes. Please do not put our student athletes at a disadvantage by modifying our calendar. When our high schools are competitive at the highest levels, it's a win for all of Peoria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Martinez. Our next speaker this evening will be Mrs. Michelle Henderson.
President Wilson, Vice President Ross, Board of Education, and Dr. Karat. My name is Michelle Henderson, and I'm a proud teacher, parent, and graduate of Peoria Public Schools. This is my 19th year in the district. I come to you tonight to voice my concerns on my stance against the proposal on a modified calendar. Some may say the board has already decided, but I'd like to trust otherwise. I attended all town hall meetings. My husband served on the modified calendar subcommittee. I came with many questions, as Dr. Wilson can attest to. One reason Dr. Karat indicated for having the new calendar was delivering on the 2016 tax vote to provide air to all of our buildings. I am very grateful to say that we are enjoying the air conditioning well into late October, and that traditional summer school will also benefit. Many districts have tried a modified calendar and reverted to a traditional calendar within a couple of years. There is no research out there that supports the academic achievement. Why would we make such a drastic change if it does not affect achievement? As an experienced teacher, starting and stopping throughout the year is a difficult transition. With larger breaks, it makes it hard for students to transition many more times, thus affecting achievement. After returning from our extended winter break, I am reminded of the learning loss that occurs. I have spent the majority of the last 2 weeks reviewing concepts that we learned prior. We would extend these breaks to 10 school days off, which I want to reiterate is 2 calendar weeks. The original intention was to eliminate summer slide, but instead of 1 extended break, we will now have 3 that lead to more learning loss for a fall, winter, and spring slide. There has been talk of learning during intersessions. From the survey last year, there were 221 teachers that said that they would be willing to work during these intersessions. We have close to 13,000 students. We can't offer services if we can't follow through with the staffing requirements to fulfill those needs. Mrs. Daniels from Harrison Community Learning Center said she had to get creative with staffing the intersessions. Families will be using intersessions to fill childcare needs. If the drive for these is credit recovery for high school, let's think of a program that would affect those individuals. Staff and families have suffered trauma in the last 2 years. We need to move forward with consistency and normalcy for everyone, which includes a full school day, which I was glad to hear that we'll get back to next year. As intersessions were discussed in last year's meetings, students may or may not be at the same schools. They may or may not have transportation, and students would be placed with different teachers. Students, again, they need consistency. Let's think about our special ed population. How can we ensure we are meeting their accommodations and goals when they could potentially be with a different teacher each intercession? Are we letting families know these realities when offering the intercessions? Parents have been forced to find childcare throughout the past year, and it's difficult to do on and off throughout a school year. Many daycares have closed, and many places do not have the manpower to have students sporadically. This will mean that many younger students are left home alone. Looking at the pilot, they presented before a complete year of piloting and having only the fall intercession. I applaud and respect the work that they are doing there, but I feel we need to stop looking at our district as a one-size-fits-all mold. You can offer it as a choice, but it should not be mandated for all. At what point are we going to start listening to the people that are in the trenches living this every day, the families and the staff? Vice President Ross had asked about a survey, and data was collected last year, which I reshared with all of our board members, and then the data presented the following. Of our families last year, 56% thought that the traditional calendar would be best for students. 25% thought the modified, and then the remaining percentages were in favor for balanced, which is no longer on the table. For their specific family needs, 59% voted for traditional, 23% voted modified. Looking at staff surveys, 38% voted traditional as the best option for students, and 36% voted modified. Looking at their own families, it was 47% that voted for traditional and 32% for modified. The Illinois report card shows teacher retention in our district is 81.5%, when surrounding districts range from 88 to 90%. I anticipate that some teachers will leave, either retiring early or finding other opportunities elsewhere. We need to attract teachers to our district, not push them away. We need to take care of our staff. Teachers would not be at the same schedule as their own children in surrounding districts, and I know, Mr. Murphy, you had talked about this. May I have one more minute, please? Thank you. But we would have 2 additional weeks in the start of a school year where they would have to incur the cost of childcare. Families could potentially leave or not attend until our surrounding districts start, affecting our district attendance. In closing, there are too many hurdles to overcome. A modified calendar is not the answer, not now and not ever. We want people to move into Peoria, not out. Thank you for your time and consideration on this topic. I hope that you consider a traditional calendar. I do not feel a modified calendar is in the best interest of our families or our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. Our next speaker for this evening will be Mrs. Marie Lindahl. I get that last name correct?
You did.
Okay.
Marie Lindahl, parent and teacher in the district. I normally have really well-written one tonight, but I don't. The things that I'm against moving to the modified calendar, I had my girls go through Valeska, so I am familiar with that calendar, and I struggled as a working parent trying to make those weeks off work to make sure that my kids were taken care of. The reasons I'm against it is the lack of data. I don't feel that we've given it a full year to really look at everything. The numbers are not firm. And from what I've heard through different discussions, there was the first 2 weeks were not formal teaching. It was more of getting to know the families, which is important. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I work on SEL every single day. We do a good morning and everything. So I understand the importance of that, building that relationship. But when you have 2 weeks of that, you don't have time when you're looking at high school or middle school when they need to have that curriculum right away. The other things that I've written down, the child care, I know others have discussed this. You've named different people that would help with that have said they would. Where's the proof? I want to see it. You know what I mean? I want to see that this group is going to do this, and this is what it's going to cost, and this is how it's going to be provided. The same questions come up with the intercessions. If you're going to have kids going in, how are they going to be covered? How are the teachers getting paid? What are they, what are they expected to do? The next part is high school. Again, the schedules being in Dunlap, Princeville, other surrounding communities are going to be different. They're going to be the traditional, while we're not, and that provides a whole new scenario. From a personal aspect, my daughter is hoping to do the D2 program. ICC is on a traditional calendar. So there's going to be some conflict there as well. And then, of course, the shortened summer schedule. We are a 4-H family. I know you talked about agriculture is not here. I'm agriculture. Our family is agriculture. We do live in Peoria, but we work with friends and family that are outside of Peoria. And so we've raised chickens. We currently raise rabbits. We do vegetables. We do it all. And so 4-H is very important to our family, and that goes until that second week of August. We have the state fair. We have the 4-H fair here locally. And then we host, this will be our fifth year hosting a student from Japan. And to do that program, they stay until August 15th, 17th, in that time frame. I would not be able to work because these kids are not here for school. They're here to learn about America and our family and have a traditional summer. What else did I have? The college visit idea, that only applies to juniors and seniors. It does not apply to the whole district. I'll echo the whole passing kids on. I've seen it in my 4 years at my school, whether you call it TJ or CT Vivian now. But anyway, I've seen it. I've seen these kids that are not performing to where they need to be as a kindergartner, being pushed on into first grade, and then they're struggling on and on and on. And I have my own children that have been allowed to go on and hit high school, and all of a sudden, whoa, we now have grades and we can't pass these classes without getting that grade, and they've had to go for credit recovery repeatedly. And that needs to make a change. And I work with my children, I'm in education. So it's not a lack of parenting. Yeah, I think that's everything. Other than summer, that's my other thing I had down here. I'm a ceramic artist on the side, so I basically work 2 jobs, and to take away the summer is also difficult for me as I have a lot to get done during that summertime. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat, President Wilson, and members of the board for allowing me to speak. My name is Patrick Hogan, and I'm a teacher and coach at Richwoods High School, the parent of 3 kids, with the oldest going to Keller, and a proud alumnus of Peoria Public Schools. I wanted to take a moment to address the proposed modified balanced calendar, which I urge you to vote no on. Many of the anticipated gains that were sent out from the district are far from what I, and many others, would call benefits. To start, rest and respite throughout the school year. We already have many breaks in place throughout the school year. Taking rest and respite from one area of the year and moving it to another does not increase rest and respite. It moves where you get it. Opportunities for high school labs and K-8 small groups or one-on-ones. High school students are already able to complete credit recovery during the school year as well as during the school day. Furthermore, all teachers offer retakes and accept late work, so there are many opportunities available. Do you truly believe that students are more likely to come into school on breaks than they are to use the time during traditional school days? In K-8 schools, who will staff these small groups and one-on-ones? If it's teachers, then how are they getting the rest and respite that this schedule provides? How are students getting rest and respite if they are just going to spend those breaks in school? Families breaking away during the school year. For starters, families already have a fall break, a winter break, a spring break, a break around Easter, not to mention many 3-day weekends. There are plenty of opportunities to get away. This idea also only helps a small percentage of our families who can afford to travel throughout the year. Furthermore, if your child is involved in sports, then you will not have the time as these proposed breaks are during the IHSA fall and spring season, which will create massive problems for coaches with kids missing practices and games, as well as athletic directors finding workers to work home games. Reduces summer slide. While shortening the summer can reduce the summer slide, the research you guys shared with us shows that you trade that gain for slides during bigger breaks throughout the school year. Per the research you gave us, unless you add calendar days to the school year, there are 0 long-term academic benefits that happen. Focus on well-being. We, the staff and students, are experts on what give us balance and well-being. Seeing that many of us are against it, the district is not showing they are focusing on our well-being unless you are listening to us. We know what helps our well-being, not you, the district, telling us what may help us. As you've noticed tonight, there's not been one parent, teacher, or student speak in support of this schedule. A decrease in discipline issues. Comparing under half a year of data during a pandemic to baseline data is faulty science at best, misleading data at worst, as no data from the last 2 years would be worth comparing to any previous years. Improvement in school culture. What does this mean? How is this happening? How can you quantify this? If so many families and staff are against this, the district is knowingly hurting the culture of the school community by pushing this through. Over the last few decades, our city and district has struggled with families leaving Peoria to live in neighboring communities. Teachers and administrators have done the same. We should focus our time and energy looking at ways to attract families and teachers to our district, not implementing a schedule that will most certainly do the opposite. This is especially true during a time with a nationwide teacher shortage. Do not believe that innovation automatically means progress. Change for the sake of change can hinder achievement. I urge you to vote no to this modified balanced calendar, as we are sure to see more faculty, staff, and families leave our district if this passes. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Amayali Velasquez, and I'm a junior at Richwoods High. Please bear with me as this is my first time participating in something I feel is truly necessary. We all can agree that school is stressful enough. Now imagine our summer being cut short. It's absolutely ridiculous. Many of us have jobs that will be affected if the board votes yes. Summer vacation is a good time to work because we have time to do so without worrying about all the homework that needs to be done on a daily basis when we get home and having to wake up very early in the morning. Cutting down summer means working students will not have the time to make the income they need to help afford college as well as their future livelihoods. Who here has children or knows someone who plays sports? Athletics will also be affected by this vote. Both student athletes and their coaches will not get time off during the extended breaks. Also, if there is time issued off, select sports, according to the IHSA standards, will not play enough games in order to qualify to participate in regional, sectional, and state tournaments. This vote will not only affect us students, but it will also affect teachers and staff. They will barely have time off, which they also deserve. Many teachers, staff, parents, and students have family in other districts, and if this vote follows through, we won't be able to spend time with family whose calendars remained normal. I also want to address single parents as well as low-income parents with children unable to fend for themselves while their parents are working. It's bad as it is finding affordable sitters or after-school programs while school is in session, and if this passes, I'm sure it'll cause more issues in family homes that could be 100% avoidable. If this is about needing help for ones with mental health illnesses, breaks, this isn't the way to go about it. Kids need their breaks as much as possible, and being able to make their own decisions, learning over the summer, etc., with their families and loved ones. I also have a disability and would never ask upon my school to fully cater to me, as it's not fair to all others as well. And yes, many need more care, and rightfully so, in which there's programs set up for such. Perhaps that needs fixing. In conclusion, there is not enough information to prove that this is beneficial to us. Without students, teachers, school staff, and parents who pay the school through taxes, there wouldn't be any schools nor Peoria District 150 for that matter. So shouldn't we have a say in this? I was taught if it's not broken, don't fix it. And the setup we have now is not broken. I, for one, don't believe that this new calendar idea is in our favor. I, in fact, think it's doltish and hope this board reconsiders passing this vote. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Thank you, Ms. Velasquez. Our final speaker tonight will be Mrs. Mary Beth Cunningham.
Good evening, Mary Beth Cunningham, 6219 El Dorado, Peoria. I'm the cheese that stands alone that loves the actual schedule, but am here to beg you not to do it. I love the schedule. I'm privileged enough to love the schedule. I think other people are as well. I get to have my kids at home with me when when school's not in session. But I've worked with Peoria citizens. Obviously, I'm a Peoria citizen myself, my entire life, and the amount of little kids that I've seen go home, like you talked about, and be home by themselves. And it's never during summer. It's during the times, a short spring break or a 3-day fall break. I remember having to send staff home when I was managing in a community agency. I had to send staff home because I found out that they had a 7-year-old home by themselves. I said, go home. You can't do this. I don't want to have to report my own staff, and I understand you're not paid enough to actually be able to cover this if you don't get paid when you work. I get it. We've all been, who on this horseshoe has not ever wondered, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for childcare? I mean, I don't know a single parent, unless you were born in money, who has not worried about that. And we've got a huge amount of people in our district who worry every paycheck. It's spent before they get it. We don't have the childcare taken care of. The other issue I really want to talk about, and I'm glad that Dr. Krott mentioned about the two-tier bell schedule. I want to guarantee on that before we go forward with this. I feel like that would be a really good way to say, you know what? Guarantee this happening, see that we have enough staff to do it, because I fear what'll happen is that we're going to get to next year and we're going to have no bus drivers, and so we're going to be stuck with our children without enough time in school, and we're in a new schedule. That's my fear. I don't think it would ever be intentional. Nobody likes this three-tier bell schedule, I don't think, and nobody likes to have the children without the proper time in school. We're talking about children, we're talking about SEL. I'm going to try to make you giggle, but it was for real because most of you know me. I'm an expert in educational psychology. I'm a therapist. I'm a trauma therapist. And I offered to help with solutions and you guys have seen my posts on social media. I was put in the financial committee. My husband laughed his head off about that. I took myself out of that. I said, get me out. What a waste of my time. And quite frankly, I would totally bankrupt the district. I'm stupid in that domain, right? I could have helped bridge this. I've emailed, I gave solutions, I offer feedback, and there are many more people like me. I just happen to have the expertise, right? I want what's best for our children. I have children in the district. Strategically, I came to this district. I look at the longer breaks and I wonder about our autistic students. That's terrible. It's a terrible adjustment. It's a terrible transition. I look at our longer breaks. I'm not necessarily only worried about the little kids. I'm worried about the kids who use HISRA during the summer, or the young adults who use HISRA during the summer, and that's not available to them for 2 weeks at a time. Those programs are the only thing that many families have. I'm worried about the single parents who don't have any community around them. This is something that we have to worry about. None of those situations suit me other than having a kid who has a hard time transitioning. I want what's best for the children. I always will. I come up here and I put my neck out there every single time I come here. And half of the time, I would love to do what you're asking to do. But again, that speaks to my privilege that I actually have that kind of an option. And I was never always in that place to do that. 3 years ago, this would have made me have to quit my job. And we are seeing a lot of parents already barely hanging on after the pandemic. I hope we're able to do this one day. Yeah, I know that I'm the only one probably. I'm part of that 25%. This isn't the year. Socio-emotional learning, where are you measuring this? I didn't see a pre-test, a post-test. I don't see what the psychometric properties are. We've got a counselor on the school board, or at least a trained counselor. I don't know that she's practicing. We have an ED. We've got an educator. We've got people. Of course, we've got Dr. Karat, and we've got people who know what they're doing. We've got plenty of people with masters. You cannot do the research project before you do the lit review. And while I think that these are good hypotheses and good hopes and dreams for this, that's hopes. And I think that things could happen with retention being a possibility. We need to be able to retain kids. We need to be able to mandate summer school or mandate intercession school. That would pair very well with this, because the kids who are going a lot of times aren't necessarily the kids that we're targeting with this. I appreciate this. I think one thing that Dr. Crott and I, we disagree on many things, but one thing I know that we agree that children are important and we want to keep them healthy and safe. And I have a lot of respect for all the work. Board members, I have a lot of respect for you, even though I'm annoying to you a lot. But I know that this is volunteer time for you, so I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Thank you to all the speakers tonight. We now have response to audience presentation. Dr. Karat.
Thank you very much, President Wilson. And I wanted to thank, I think, the 15 or 16 individuals who've shared their feedback with us. Just a few observations. As I mentioned earlier, essentially, if we want different results as a district, we have to continue to pilot and to do things differently. I mean, I think we are all familiar with Einstein's theory of insanity, expecting, different results by doing the same thing. And I must say, and we've gotten a couple of emails from individuals who said, a number of individuals who said, we support this. We know we're, a number of us are supporting this, but we're not going to come out and that sort of thing. One thing I will say, based on the surveys, is that we have over 50% of our teachers who are in support of this proposal. So I need to throw that out there. And the lit review has been done. I mean, we have researched this and researched this and researched this, and the primary gains are around the frequent breaks. Really, we're going for the social emotional piece. I remember when I first came to Peoria a long time ago, many of you probably, I'm dating myself, there was a commercial that says, if you wear out your body, where are you going to live, right? And so for us, the taking time out to rejuvenate, to refresh is very important. And so that is key in terms of what are we going after? COVID and the pandemic and everything else have exacerbated the work that we're doing, which makes it a lot more intense. So I believe that is a very, very important piece. When we come back, we're rejuvenated and we're better able to be educators and servant leaders for our school communities. And we've heard it's like, okay, what's the data? Where's the evidence? What are the testimonials? We're hearing it. We've heard it from Harrison. We've heard it from Valeska, who've done it for over 29 years on a more drastic schedule. We've heard it from Knoxville. They do not want to go back. Rock Island, they've done it for over 30 years, and the other schools. Everybody says that is what we're getting. We're getting that social emotional break that we need since our work is getting much more demanding and intense. That's what we're after. I mentioned what COVID has done to us, which also makes so much more sense. And then I told you what percentage that are in favor of this. And then student discipline is another big piece. When we know at home, we're upset, we're tired, we yell at our kids, whatever. If we're more rested, better rested, we tend to be a lot more measured and more patient and even more loving. Our student discipline data, Peoria Public Schools have been on a watch list, a red list for over, I don't know how many years, over 20 years. And Shannon, I can ask Shannon to share that data. And it's about discipline, student discipline. And when that data is disaggregated, it gets really, really bad. And they have cited us for discipline specifically as it relates to when they break it down by racial disparity. So we know that these breaks will not only help with wellness, but it helps with student behavior as well. We have the evidence. All of the other schools have showed that. And then childcare, I've heard time and time and time again about childcare. And an important point to remember, the 10 days, the 5 days, the 5 days during the spring, the 5 days during the fall, for those, parents can use that opportunity. We're going to work with the kids, and so that should be a huge help, and so the childcare that President Wilson asked about in terms of how will that impact childcare, for 1 week, and then we're talking about another week that parents usually do something with the kids during spring break and also during fall, as I mentioned. And we have our groups that, and I mentioned their names earlier, that are working collaboratively with us. And then even with Harrison also, we're seeing the retention of staff. And I believe this will help the retention of staff. So, we all have our spin on it. We've been intimately involved with this work, since 2016. And so I also wanted to say to Anthony Joseph mentioned IB and we mentioned AP. Those dates, I have those dates. That will not impact any of those IB dates at all. Your AP dates will be May 2nd through the 6th and May 9th through the 13th. IB will be April 28th through May 20th. So those will not be impacted. I think it was Harris, the young lady from Washington. I know she left. She probably has homework. She mentioned the trip to Washington, D.C., and I had gotten some feedback about that last week, followed up with Ms. Martin about it. It's an excellent opportunity, and it's actually a trip that is coordinated by an outside group. So PPS really does not have anything to do with it. And I was so pleased and thankful. I thanked Mr. C, who coordinates that trip from an external group, for his, just his continued passion and servant leadership to provide this amazing opportunity for the kids. But it's not a Peoria Public Schools Washington trip. So those are all that I have in terms of my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. We are now at item number 9, approval of minutes for December 13th, 2021 and January 10th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? President Wilson?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 1, under information items, superintendent update.
Thank you, President Wilson. This is another big piece. And board, my update will focus on when I first gave the update regarding the modified calendar, I mentioned, and Ms. Cunningham also mentioned it, I know that Dr. Rankin have been also working with me to ensure that, hey, we're definitely going to do this, right? And I said, yes, we will. And so my update will focus on the return to the 2-tier bell schedule for the upcoming school year. And we're working really, really hard on it. The last time we spoke, we were about 20-something drivers short. And Josh and his team, Dr. Ike, Mr. Willis, and have worked very, very hard regarding marketing. And what we found out is that, so we talked about, definitely going back to the 2-tier bell schedule. And as of today's update, and so I definitely want to make a formal announcement that the 2-tier bell schedule will resume effective 2022, 2023. Among other things, a return to the 2-tier will resolve several logistic challenges that we're going to need the board to assist with. We're going to need some support in terms of time to pull this off, such as time, effort, money, and people. And so, is Dr. Ike nearby? Yeah. So, board, we're down to needing about 10 folks, and we're at a plateau, but we have a strategy that we believe will help to get us those 10 people, and it will require some support to make us a little bit more competitive. And so just wanted a consensus from the board to do what needs to be done to attract these 10 individuals. And I'll have Dr. Ike add to that. Thank you, Dr. Ike.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. The fact that it will be heavily dependent on having drivers and buses, of course. So there will be quite a bit of effort in trying to make sure we recruit the right number of drivers to be able to pull this off. And of course, with the, I guess, consensus or some kind of authorization that you're going to give tonight, it will then empower the administration to then go and do whatever it takes, i.e. engage the transportation union that is the bargaining unit for drivers so that we can basically work with them to pull this off. So essentially, a consensus authorization from you to kind of get this going. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Ms.
not sure.
Costick?
Oh, Ms. Costick.
Or anything, but I have a hard time saying yes to something that I don't have all the information to. You're saying that this is what you need, but what is the plan to get it done?
Right. So it will entail, we didn't want to get ahead of ourselves in terms of the numbers and the details because there is a bargaining unit we're going to be talking with. But at a minimum, like I said, it will involve hiring. And of course, hiring involves setting the compensation at a point that will be able to attract and retain, essentially. There's also going to be budget for marketing. There's going to be budget for hiring incentives, et cetera. So we've been working behind the scenes, of course. We know that this has been the board's desire and many of our stakeholders. And the marketing plan has been ongoing, but we want to, with your blessing now, we'll then go to the drawing board and finish putting together the negotiation piece of it and the exact estimate that we will need to pull this off.
Dr. Rankin? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Costick.
I'm sorry? Timeline?
No, yes.
The 2022-23 school year, so next school year.
I understand that, but the decisions, it has to be done prior to the start of the school year. We can't wait until the school year and say, oh, okay.
Correct. In fact, once we hear from you tonight, tomorrow morning, we'll definitely start engaging the transportation union. We're just trying not to, as they say, bargain in public, as they say.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, that's why we're hedging our comments.
So the
last thing,
Sorry, Ms.
that I would say is, in the event that we cannot do what we want to do as far as attracting people to come, to be bus drivers, we need to make it, to be as transparent as possible in letting the public know that, no, we will not be able to go into the two-tier program at this particular time. And it is based on these factors.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. And in fact, it's more so that we must do this based on the plans we've been working on all this time that we're actually coming to you now. We're confident we're going to pull this off. That's why we're coming to you now.
Thank you. Dr. Rankin?
I guess just from other things that have happened in the last year and a half with us giving consensus to kind of go forth and do what needs to be done, I feel like I don't want to give consensus on that until we know exactly what it is. For example, when we gave consensus to do the COVID money to the teachers, we then got a lot of backlash because we didn't exactly understand what the policy exactly was going to be. We were not part of that conversation of a July 31st date, or I don't even know what it is, for teachers getting their COVID money. We just kind of gave a blanket consensus to say, go forth and do what you need to do. And so I want to see what it is before we can say yes. I again am with Ms. Kostick. I want the 2-tier schedule. I think we need to go back to that. But I feel like from our past experiences with just giving kind of a blanket consensus, I feel I don't feel comfortable doing that when we're not part of that decision making process and people think we are and come to us with questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan King. Just to, if I must say, I have spoken with Dr. Karat, and she is going to meet with each of us, give us a call, kind of describe, get a little bit more information on what the ask is. So you'll be getting your consensus shortly, just not tonight.
Yep, and it is about being competitive, essentially.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ike.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan.
Item number 2, proposed expenditures over $2,500. Questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none. Item number 3, report of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and the status of such requests.
Thank you, President Wilson. Since our board meeting on January 10th, we received one new request. There was also one pending request noted on January 10th, and it has been closed. The new request received has been closed also, so there are currently 0 pending requests. And additional information, let's see, I guess it's a new year, so we've spent $50 on getting the requests to the individuals who've asked for them. Thank you in terms of grand total. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karat. Item number 4, second reading of procurement policy. And now we are ready for the consent agenda. Vice President Ross.
Thank you. The consent agenda tonight consists of gifts to the school district. We have to date $50,816.35 in gifts to the school district. Just to highlight a couple of those, there's a $2,500 baby grand piano given by Mr. John Griffith for fine arts programs at Manual. Also, a $500 gift from Danny and Debbie Wolf for the students' gifts for Lincoln. And they also gave another $100 for students at Lincoln. So all gifts are important. I want to highlight too, Mr. Jerry Brookhart, used to be the regional superintendent, has given a gift to the Peoria Jazz All-Stars. Number 2, payment of bills. Number 3, payment for travel. Number 4, human resources report. Number 5, purchase of 2 used school buses. Number 6, Woodruff HVAC program, HVAC project. Number 7, modified calendar recommendation. Number 8, senior class overnight trip. Number 9, agreement with Peoria Notre Dame Youth Basketball League. Number 10, approval of escorts as an activity for IHSA participation. Number 11, field trip approval, students traveling to California for a speech competition. Number 12, an addendum to contract for children's homes therapists to provide therapeutic services.
Thank you, Vice President Ross. Is there any items board members would like to pull for a separate vote?
Number 7.
Dr. Ryan King?
Second.
Number 7? Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item number 7?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Rankin? Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? President Wilson?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. May I have a motion and a second to discuss item number 7?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been pulled by 3. Dr. Rankin?
I feel like this is an obvious pull for tonight since we have had so much discussion on this tonight. I do have a statement about it that I'm going to read. As stated tonight, deliberate feedback has been taken in for consideration. I disagree with that statement for many of the things I have heard and stated this evening already. First, while it may be pointed out that I'm being picky, every school is not fully 100% air conditioned, as I stated this evening. Teacher buy-in has not been considered. I may get pushback on that as well, but this was done last year with a little over 50% who agreed with the modified, but that was a survey that included modified, traditional, and balanced. A survey has not been conducted that includes just traditional and modified. This year, during a more traditional year, when the last one was done during the depths of COVID. The student petition has not been considered, as the impact study groups have also not met this year to see the impact of the modified calendar at Harrison. Essentially, the proposal before us is not based on data, but rather assumptions. As already stated tonight, Harrison's office referral rates, the only data we have to support the SEL statement, has not shown a decrease or even stagnant numbers in the first semester, but has increased from our last traditional school year. If we are stating this based on SEL or mental health, I think it's also important to recognize the new bill that was enacted this month, January 2022, specifically number SB 1577. This allows students to take 5 mental health days as excused when they need it during the school year. This is something that is now law in Illinois and can be used by students or families whenever it's needed, not as determined by a calendar. I, as a parent, am quite indifferent to the modified calendar. Traditional, modified, this doesn't truly impact my family. I have the privilege of having an older child, and I work from home. However, I am not voting for personal reasons. I'm voting tonight considering all of the students in our district, from District 1 to District 2 to District 3. If you know me as a professional, outside of these walls and of these meetings, you know where my research and heart is in the decision-making that I make. Our district has been one that is held in high esteem as one of choice. This is not a proposal for all students because our school district is not a one-size-fits-all. If we are going to change the calendar, let's be innovative, as we constantly say we are as a school district. Let's think outside the box. I'm disappointed in the proposed calendar. When discussing this earlier at open meetings during meetings here at the Horseshoe, I brought up the question regarding the importance of teacher buy-in, such as we had at Harrison. Thinking outside the box is scaling the implementation. What students may benefit from this the most, and what students may not benefit from this? What schools as a whole have buy-in, and which ones don't? We don't know those statistics. We had a student board member here a few meetings ago asking for this scaling. This voice, the voice of the student board member, as well as other students and families, I feel like is being ignored. Again, I agree. I'm indifferent to this calendar, but I think that this is not the right time for our district with the lack of data and the grounding of assumptions rather than data as we move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Reinke. Chase? Oh, did you have any comments? No? Mike?
All right. Thank you. So as I reviewed a lot of the responses and questions and concerns that I was asked to find out more information about, the more I was able to find answers that maybe they weren't privy to. So I wanted to make sure that we were transparent as much as possible, or as much as I could be possible, with them in their responses. One thing I know that as a board, we have brought on Dr. Karat to make these decisions for our students, for our faculty members, because it's what she deems to be a good decision. And it's up to us to decide whether or not we support her in her work. What I'm trying to propose now at this point is that we make a motion because I understand that the importance of the two-tiered schedule for the fall is paramount. Getting our kids back into a full day of school on a two-tiered system is priority. I would like to see that we guarantee the two-tiered system before we adopt a motion to approve the modified calendar. So I would like to have a motion to modify number 7 to reflect a guarantee of a two-tiered system before a modified calendar would be approved.
Legal,
President Wilson?
some guidance behind that, legal?
Yes, so it sounds like he's making a motion to amend the language.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I
So
don't,
you want it to say,
Peoria Public School Board of Education approves the modified calendar for K-12 students starting 22-23 school year based on a two-tiered bell schedule.
you like to respond
I
to?
don't think we can do that
I-
legally.
Yeah, I don't
think
know.
Yeah,
we can do that
President
legally.
Wilson, I
mean,
think
legally.
what might, if I'm reading you correctly, it might be a motion to pull this and to have a wider discussion if that's something that needs to be done for you to feel. We need a motion and a second to pull this.
Okay, so let me back up then. Forgive me, this is my first time pulling one. I just wanted to make sure, okay. Can this be pulled until a two-tiered system has been solidified for the fall schedule?
If there's a motion, a second, and a
There's
vote.
If there's, yes.
We have committed to a two-tier schedule already.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be
It's already
necessarily
committed to that.
pulled.
But my only concern is that what if we can't make that commitment? Or what if we don't agree as a board on how the way it's being?
We're gonna make it happen.
Okay.
Okay. Madam Secretary, is there any other discussion?
Well, I have a clarification. So, Board Member Murphy, are you asking for it to be pulled, or are you asking to vote as is?
I would ask that it be pulled until we can verify that we are going to be on a two-tiered schedule for the fall. But
make a motion,
can I get a motion
seconded, and then
to approve this being pulled until we get a two-tiered guarantee schedule?
So you're making a motion.
Wait.
What is that going to look?
We still have an open, we moved and seconded
Yeah,
on
sorry.
the motion on the floor. Don't we need to, we would have to vote that down and
Right.
produce produce the amended motion saying that it would be based on the two-tier. I think that's the way it would have to work.
Okay, so a motion and a second to vote on item number 7. Then from there, we would amend.
It would be an amended version.
you need to vote to amend it first, and then
Okay.
have a discussion on that.
Okay,
Then, if you vote that down, you would go back to the initial
okay.
version.
But I think what Board Member Murphy is asking is not for an amendment, but to pull it. Can he do that now, or do we have to amend it to have a discussion?
I don't think the ask is,
I think he can probably
Okay,
speak for
what I would
himself.
like to have it done is to have this wording amended to include that we will be having a guarantee that we will have a two-tiered schedule for the fall.
So we vote on the amendment second.
So
We're gonna-
I would like to have a motion to approve the amendment to reflect that we will have a two-tiered schedule for the fall.
Okay, I second that amendment.
so, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll for the amendment?
Can you restate the amendment, please?
You can have a discussion now on whether you want to approve that amendment. So you can discuss what the amendment is, and then take a vote on whether or not you're going to approve it.
Any discussion on the amendment that Mike Murphy is proposing?
Let me ask this question. So what you're saying is that you want to amend number 7 to be contingent upon the
Two-tier.
two-tier formalization and implementation of the two-tier. Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment?
I have a question. Board Attorney, can you describe exactly what the process is right now? Can you walk us through it one more time?
Yes, so it sounds like he is making a motion to amend the language. Right? You just want to amend the language so that the administration is guaranteeing that the two-bell system will be in place.
Yes.
So my discussion
There's
with
already
that.
been a first and a second on that.
My discussion with that is, how can they guarantee it? So let's say that August 1st, when we're supposed to start school the next day, or the whatever, whenever that day falls, and we don't have it, do we automatically then go back to a traditional schedule because they haven't done the caveat, the if-then statement?
That's
Right, that causes an additional concern. So the better option is you might make a motion to table it so that you can have time to discuss it with the administration and then go from there.
Okay, so then that would be the best way for the less.
You can make a motion to do that, yes.
So can I have a motion and a second? Mike wants to table.
So Mike's making the
Are
motion.
you making a motion then?
Yes. So I'd like to have a motion and second to table number 7 until we have further discussion on the two-tiered system schedule being implemented for the fall.
Because I don't think she's correct on that. We have to vote on the motion that's on the floor.
He's not. Oh, no.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so there is currently a motion to amend the language. So you're going to have to withdraw that motion.
To make that other motion to, okay. I'd like to withdraw the motion to amend the language of number 7. Now, bring forth a motion to have,
Got to be a second.
and a second to,
Hang on. I'm sorry.
I
You make
second
the
what his motion is, to take away his amendment.
Yes.
Now go,
Okay.
Mike.
okay. I'd like to make a motion to pull number 7 until we know what the plan will be for negotiations on transportation and to guarantee a two-tier bus or a two-tier bell schedule for the fall.
I second your motion to table number 7.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Costick? President Wilson?
No.
Mr. Kloss?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Ranking?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Deliberation agenda. Item number 13.
Yeah, okay, let's see, I'll get back to that. Item number 13. The proposed action is that item number 13 be accept it as amended.
So,
Second.
We have to vote on 13 first.
sorry, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Ranking?
aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Oh,
Thought I already said aye.
President Wilson? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 14.
Item 14 is, would like to move that the motion be accepted as presented.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Ranking?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Wilson?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 15.
Item 15.
Suspension review.
Oh, that's the one that's amended.
Also no.
That one was the one I did at first. Item 15 is, the motion is promoted as amended. That's the one that was amended. I don't have it in front of me, I'm sorry.
Second.
As amended.
Madam Secretary?
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Claus?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Dr. Ranking?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
President Wilson?
Aye.
7 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you. Presentation and suggestions by board members. Seeing none, reports from board committees.
Policy will meet February 16th at 3:30.
Thank you.
The parent-teacher advisory will meet February, I think, 18th at 7:15 here at, 7:15 here at the district office.
Sounds good.
Meet on February the 8th at 10 a.m.
Sounds good. Procurement committee, any meeting set
We
up?
haven't got a meeting set up.
All right, thank you. Meeting adjourned.